It's finishing Friday. I'm stitching it my way. Just wanna be sitting with needles and knitting. Hello, my crafty and creative people. Yeah, it is finished Friday. You know what that means on my channel. It's just show and tell. That's right. So grab your beverage of choice, grab your project or whatever it is that we do while we hang out. And come on in. Your knitting needles, your crochet hooks, your paints, whatever. Fold your socks. And if you want, say hello in the comment section and let me know just what it is that we're doing together. Say, I'm crocheting a baby blanket. Whatever. Let me know, hi, from Australia. Now, don't put your address in the comment section on any place publicly, on anybody's YouTube page, okay? There's a lot of scammers out there in the world. So, anyways, with that, I'm going to introduce myself. So, first, I'm going to, of course, say to all my returning viewers, thanks so much for coming back and choosing to hang out with me and spend a little bit of your day with me. And thank you for your patience while I briefly introduce myself to anybody who might be new. Hi, my name's May. I love yarn. I love to knit and crochet. Those are my hobbies. And I also happen to be visually impaired, and that includes being colorblind. So, I knit and crochet by feel, and I'm just going to tell you, the color thing is by far the most challenging aspect of knitting and crocheting for me. It's not the stitches, it's not trying to listen to videos, figure out patterns, learn how to increase. No, it's color. What can I put together? What colors work together? What colors don't? What colors can I wear? It's always such a mystery. So on my channel, I do my best to describe colors when I know them for other people who are blind or visually impaired, because I love it when other content creators and people on social media in general tell me what color something is, because I always store that information away in my head and think, okay, what goes together? What can I put those together? So when somebody says this is blues and greens and it's tan and brown and pink, I store all that away in my head and think, okay, I can put those together. So for my finished project today, ta-da! I did it, and I'm so excited. This is the skirt. If you saw my Whip Wednesday video on when your granny square shape shifts and morphs, it's a top, it's a skirt. It doesn't know what it wants to be. Yeah, I didn't even know what I was doing. So, first of all, the granny squares are not my original design. They are from Jayda In Stitches, from her live video on Tuesday morning, April 29th, 2025, okay? I know she did hers in 4 colors. Well, I did mine in 3. The whole colorblind thing. What colors can I wear? What do I have in the house of the same yarn? So, for people who are blind or visually impaired or colorblind, my granny squares are white in the center. It's a flower. There's petals. I chose to use Hollyberry, which is a really deep, dark burgundy red. And then I did the actual granny stitch where you square it up and frame it in ivy, a really dark green. And then I did the last round of it in a single crochet in the same white as the center. And I know what you're thinking, crafters. What's the yarn? I'm always thinking that. It's knitpicks and we crochet comfy worsted. It is cotton and acrylic. I want to say it's 60% cotton and 40% acrylic, but I could be slightly off on that. So I added on another round of single crochet at the bottom of the skirt and then around a half double crochets. And I want to say that I'm done because, hey, it's finishing Friday. And I really think this skirt is done. But part of me still is thinking about a border. I'm like, is it really done? Does it need a border? I'm kind of saying no. That will distract from the granny squares too much, right? And the granny squares are like the project. So I'm kind of thinking no. And then the top of the skirt is an ivy. And I'm excited about this skirt for so many reasons. I got pretty much everything right except for one thing, which of course I will tell you about, because I'm a human being. I'm not ashamed to admit my mistakes, and hopefully I'll learn from them, although I keep making this same mistake over and over and over. So maybe eventually I'll learn, especially with the public YouTube shaming, right? Like I say, oh my gosh, I admitted that on YouTube again. Yeah, again, I made the same mistake. And maybe you'll learn from my mistakes and you won't do it as much. So, if you ever watched I think it's my very second video on YouTube, it's about in celebration of March being National Crafting Month, take my crochet journey. I talked about how my sister has been trying to teach me to crochet since I was like 15. Took me like 30 years, multiple tries, and finally in 2023, for our summer vacation, we're like, let's drink wine and crochet, okay? My sister lives across the country from me, and I get to see her like once a year. We get together, and it was crochet. That's what we're gonna do. So she helped me make a chain, make a few rounds or rows, and this is the result. Yeah, I call it disaster dishcloth. Because it's a disaster. My shaping is terrible. I lost my stitch count. It's got like a bite out of it. It's terrible. But I still use it to clean up my coffee and whatever other disasters I create in the kitchen. So after that, I was like, yikes. That's kind of wonky. And I'm much better at knitting. I think I'll go back to knitting. But all the ideas and creations in my head were still there. So my goal for 2024 was learn to crochet beyond the dishcloth. And I can say I did it. I did it in 2024, right? I did more dishcloths. And then, what did I do after that? I don't even know if I can find it. I got all my stuff here all the time in a big pile. I take stuff out, bring it in, think, what am I going to want to talk about? And so I bring in a bunch of stuff just in case is what I want to talk about tonight. And I do kind of have a plan when I come into these videos, but no notes, no script. But there is something going on in my head. But just like my projects, right? Like the granny square skirt that shape shifts constantly from top to skirt. So do my plans for the video. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm going to talk about that. And then squirrel, right? My brain goes off down a different trail. So, that happens. So I went from dishcloths in 2024 to the bucket hat. Right, here's my granny stitch bucket hat with the ruffle. Love this stuff. And then I was doing a bunch of Christmas ornaments. It was like October. And I was doing Christmas ornaments, okay? Because they were fun, they were quick, they were easy. And they gave me a chance to practice some stitches. So I did a lot of that. And then it was like, okay, beyond doing the granny stitch and a bucket hat, I want to learn how to make a granny square. And I'm going to be honest with you. My first granny square was kind of like disaster dishcloth, okay? It wasn't pretty. I reclaimed the yarn. Now, I kind of wish I'd saved it just so I could show it to you, like disaster dishcloth. So I could say, if your first granny square turns out like this, it's okay. But I didn't, because disaster dishcloth is still functional, right? It still works in my kitchen. My first granny square, there was no function for it other than illustrative, teaching purposes. There was no function. It was never going to get used in a project. It was listing. It was lopsided. It was wonky. It was never going to get made into a blanket. I mean, it wasn't. It was that bad. There was going to be no blocking. No blocking was going to fix the problems with my first granny square. So I did rip it. I did reclaim the yarn. But my goal for 2025 was learn how to make a granny square and learn how to join granny squares and make them into a project. So for Valentine's Day, Krista from the Secret Yarnery did these adorable little heart granny squares. And I was so excited. I made mine, and mine I did okay. I did miss a stitch somewhere. I can be honest and tell you my stitch count is off on one of the sides. I can't even remember which side, but my stitch count is definitely a little bit off. But if you want to make cute heart granny squares, check out Krista from the Secret Yarnery. You can do a whole blanket with these. They're so stinking cute, okay? So I was feeling good about the fact that in 2025, I did make a granny square. But I haven't figured out what to do with it yet. I mean, am I gonna make a blanket? I don't know. So it was like, no, my goal needs to be not just make a granny square, but, you know, learn how to join them and put them together in a project. So that's when Jayda squares came out. I was like, yes, those are the ones. I made granny squares. So I can check off goal number 1, crafting goal. Do you have crafting goals? That's a question. You can let me know. Do you make yourself crafting goals? Or do you just, you know, go with it? And it's totally fine to be like, no, I don't have crafting goals. Because I can't guarantee you that I'm going to have crafting goals every year. Some years I don't have any goals. But I was really feeling the need to give myself a little bit of structure. I'm not too good with working with structure these days. I'm really kind of a go with the flow. I'm really in a creative space right now, which doesn't really leave a lot of room for structure, right? But I'm really in a creative space, but I still wanted those basic goals for myself this year. Who knows? There might be no goals for 2026. I don't know. It's too early for me to say. But my goal was make granny squares and learn how to join them in a project. So, goal number 1, done. Granny squares. Goal number 2, learn how to join them in a project. Well, let me just say, I went to the internet, the Google, and of course looked up how to join granny squares. And I did watch a few videos. Now, I'm not going to say whose videos they were because they are good content creators and they make good tutorials. They just weren't able to use their words in a way that somebody who can't see what's happening on the screen could follow. Okay, but there's nothing wrong with them as content creators. As I make more videos, I realize that making YouTube videos is hard, especially if you're teaching something. If you don't know that yet, I got a few teaching videos on my channel. I just released one on how to knit 3-needle bind up. I got one on how to whip stitch a waistband. I got one on I-cord. And it's really hard. Those are basic things. I've known how to make I-cord for years. But even just teaching basic stuff like that, as somebody who's visually impaired, when I listen to videos, I want people to use their words and describe everything. And even I realize how hard that is and how for me to sit in just the right position to keep my work underneath the camera. I don't have a computer. I don't have an overhead camera. I just have a cell phone that you're watching me on. And then I have a tripod. And then I had to get another tripod with a horizontal boom that's only like, I don't know, like a foot long, okay? So that's the space that I have to work with. It's small, and I can't even really see what I'm doing on the screen. So making even a basic how to do 3-needle bind off video is really hard. So I'm not even going to say whose videos I watched because they were good videos. I just couldn't follow what they were doing. So I was like, you know what? Just figure it out. Just fudge it. Just, you know what? You can do that. You can just experiment. And that's what I did. So this is my join for my granny squares. Is it the right way to do it? I don't know. Does it look okay? I don't know. But you know what? I had 21 stitches on each square, and I got into the corners, and I had equal number of stitches all the way across and got to 21 on the other side, and I was happy. My squares were joined. I don't know if it's the correct way to join. I don't know if it's the proper way to join. I don't know what I did, and right now I certainly couldn't teach anybody what I did. Now hopefully I'll get better at it. Hopefully I'll actually figure out what I did after doing it 6 times, and really 7 and 8 if you watch my Whip Wednesday video. I attached them, I unattached them, I had 6, I had 5, I went back to 6, it was a top, it was too big, it was a top, it was still too big. And then I went back to the project that was really in my heart all along, right? Make a skirt. If you're on my channel, you know I love to make skirts. So that really, making this into a granny square skirt all along, what was in my heart. I just was challenged by the whole concept of a bottom-up skirt, which we'll get to in a minute. Goal number 3. Yeah, actually that's goal number 4. So learning how to join the granny squares, after doing it multiple times, I do have a little bit of a better idea of what I did. And I think if I practice it in a few more projects, I will be able to teach people how to do that. It's just still really new to me. So once I did the granny squares first. And once I did decide, yeah, you can make a skirt, I was so hesitant to make a skirt because I knew with open lacy granny squares, they weren't going to be on the top of my skirt, right? I mean, come on. They were going to have to be on the bottom, and the top part needed to be solid, which I like to do with knitting, which I did. But that meant also, if you've seen my other videos, right, we got Holly Berry skirt right here. It's the Holly Berry comfy one with the white knit on the top, crochet on the bottom. I start all of these at the top. I just start at my waist, and I just start casting on stitches till it fits around my waist. And then I just try it on. And then every couple rows, I try it on and see how does it fit. Do I need more stitches on my hips? Yes, I do. Do I need more stitches for my butt? Well, the way that I am currently, I get away with just adding a few stitches on the hips. But sometimes, you know, you might need to add a few more stitches in your round depending on the weight of your yarn, depending on the pattern that you're doing. I might want to add more than 4 stitches per round. So then I'd have to add stitches in the middle, on the front, in the middle, on the back. If you need more stitches in one place, just put in some short rows on the butt or wherever else you might need them. But that's all that I do when I make skirts. From the top down, I just try it on every couple rows and just add stitches and add stitches till it fits, until I like it, until it's got the right amount of flare that I'm picturing. And I like skirts with a lot of flare, so I tend to do that. I tend to really flare them out good. And then I was able to crochet this particular Holly Berry and white skirt. I knit it. And then I had all the stitches on the knitting needle, and I just did what I call crow knitting. And there's a whole, if you want to learn how to do crow knitting, how you use your crochet hook as a knitting needle, and you crochet the stitch off the knitting needle and then do a single crochet. And that's what I did with this skirt. I did not bind off. Now, of course, if you want to do a project like this, you can bind off your work and then pick up the stitches if you want with a crochet hook. But being visually impaired, I do things by feel. Yeah, that's challenging for me. Not impossible, but challenging. So for me, it just makes so much more sense to crochet them right off the knitting needle. Crow knitting. Don't know what that's called. But that's what I did with this skirt, and that's what I did with the Astoria tonal skirt that's on here often. I knew I brought it up here. Okay, the Astoria tonal skirt, I did the same thing with it. Knit the top down, until I got to where I wanted to crochet it. Same thing. I just crocheted it right off the knitting needles, and then went and started making my points. So to make the granny square skirt, it was totally different because I was going to have to work, the number of stitches that I had was now already determined. by my granny squares, right? These granny squares are 21 stitches. 6 of those means, well, 3 per side means I had 63 stitches on each side of my skirt. I work on 2 circular knitting needles. That meant 126 stitches around was all I had to work with. And for me, that's pretty small for a skirt because I like a lot of flare. So I had to sort of figure out, first of all, this was going to be my first time to work a project in the opposite of taking it from crochet and getting it onto knitting needles. So guess what? Yeah, we're marking up goal number 3 for the year. Yeah, new skill, new goal, done. Because that was also something I wanted to learn how to do, was how to work from crochet to knitting. And that's exactly what I did in this top row, a single crochet. You can see it right there. I hope you can see it if you're sighted. Of course, if you're visually impaired, you may or may not be able to see it. But I just took that top row of stitches, and one thing that I did was I counted them out to make sure that I had them equally divided in half. When you're visually impaired, stitch markers are your friend. I can't say that enough. I put stitch markers in at the halfway points of each side, so I have 63 stitches per side. And then started working with my knitting needles. And what I did is I started at it'd technically be the left, and I just took my knitting needles, and when you have a crochet stitch, well, crochet stitches have, of course, they have the 3 loops, right? But on the top of them, they've got the 2 loops that sort of forms that little V, the top of the stitch, right? And you go into the underneath the top 2 loops when you crochet. So the top of my stitches had those 2 loops. Now, I don't need both of those loops on a knitting needle. I only need 1. Yeah. So what I choose to do is to just take, when I've got my crochet stitches out there, I just take my knitting needle and I go into the back loop only. And yeah, that's kind of challenging for me. It is. I can't lie, to try to feel each stitch and distinguish the front loop, the back loop. That's hard for me. But I already have practice, because on Jayda's Granny Squares, when you do your first round of the green, you have to work into the back loop only of the red petals so that the petals really pop out. So I had practice with that with every single flower. So it wasn't a totally new thing for me to feel my squares and find the back loop only. So that's what I did, and that's what I would recommend. If you're looking at a crochet project and you're like, wow, I'd really like to add knitting to that, I take my knitting needle and I thread it through the back loop of the crochet stitches, okay? And then once I have all of the crochet stitches on the knitting needles, then I start anyway, by knitting those stitches through the back loop only for the first round, because when they're on the needles from the back loop, they've got a little bit of an angle to them, a little bit of a slant to them. And so for me, it makes more sense to really twist those stitches when I knit them. And so that means that I knit them through the back loop for 1 round, and then I go ahead after the first round and just knit them like normal. So that's goal number 3. I am knocking out my crafting goals for the year. I made granny squares. I learned how to join them. I learned how to work from crochet to knitting. And goal number 4, I learned how to not just make a skirt from the bottom up and calculate my decreases and my shaping. I learned how to design one. So I'm super excited about this skirt. I am super, super proud of it. So I'd love to hear from other people. Do you have crafting goals? And are you, it's May now, so we're 4 months into the year. It's stitch every day in May, right? Will I make it? We don't know yet. But that's my crafting goal. So I'm feeling good right now. If I didn't meet any other crafting goals for the year, I'd be okay. If I didn't learn any other new skills for the year, I'd be okay. Because I knocked out 4 in one project. Yeah, I did. So, yeah, so I'm feeling good. I will tell you that one thing, I did do a video that will probably come out next week on how to do the tactile ridge, how to make that turning row. As I talked about binding off, and I always bind off too tight, and I should know by now, just go up a needle size. And I didn't, because I'm like, no, I'm going to add an extra stitch for 2/3 of the stitch, right, where I do a stitch and then I knit a second stitch and then I work those two together through the back loop, and that creates an extra stitch that gives you more stretch. Well, when you stretch the actual fabric, there's still plenty of stretch in my waistband, but when you get down to where the bind off is, where it's sewn in on the inside, there's no more stretch. So my bind off is still too tight, even doing 2/3 of my stitches, where I bind off 1, bind off 2, bind those 2 together off through the back loop. So I either, probably what I should have done was just jump up my needle size. And I've learned that lesson on so many projects, and yet I obviously don't quite learn it because I keep making that mistake. So if you bind off tight, yeah, learn from me and go up a needle size, for goodness sakes. You'd think I'd get that by now. But apparently not. So even at, I'm 120 pounds right now, even at that, this skirt, I'm not even going to lie, because of the whole bind off issue, it's a little bit tight getting up over those hips. So can't gain a lot of weight, but the good thing is you'll probably see me make this skirt again, and I'll remember, so that I can actually wear it more if I gain some weight, which is entirely possible because my weight fluctuates a lot. Okay, a year ago, I was like 112 pounds. Then after Christmas, I was like 132 pounds. I put on 20 pounds and now back down to 120. So my weight goes up and down with my health, as I'm sure many of yours does as well, right? So you might see me remake this skirt just so that if I do put on more weight in the wintertime, I can still wear it. So there is that. That's really my only thing that I can criticize myself with on this project. Will I make the exact same skirt again? I don't know. There's so many other granny square options out there. You know, I might make another granny square, and next time I might even make 8 square, so I've got more stitches to play with. I can give it more flair. Now that I've done this skirt, my mind is just racing with granny square ideas. It is. I can't lie. I'm like, ooh, I could do that. And I could do that. I mean, my mind's just all over with this thing now. This granny square stuff. So, there's lots more stuff going on in my head. I'm designing a sweater right now in my head, but it's May. And I know a lot of people aren't really thinking sweaters. So I might be able to hold that one off till the fall. But I don't know. Sometimes when I start creating things, I just have to do it. I got skirts in my head that need to be made. I got a scarf in my head that I'm designing. I know going into the summer, people like tank tops and halter tops and things like that. And that's probably what I should be designing. Because I am designing a tank top in my head right now too. So I got lots of stuff in my head that I'm creating all the time. I'm working on a crochet beanie. I got a scarf coming up. I'm trying to plan ahead for you all some videos. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. It's different now that I have a YouTube channel. I'm not gonna lie, it's changing my crochet and knitting and crafting habits, because now I'm constantly thinking of content for the channel. There's things that I want to do, but they could take weeks. And it could be, you know, trying new things that might not work out. Now, I'm not embarrassed to come on here and say, you know what, it's Whip Wednesday, this is what I'm doing, and to come back on Finish Hair Friday and say, hey, guess what? I spent the whole day frogging, ripping it, and I got nothing finished. But hey, you can learn from my mistakes, right? As somebody who designs their own projects, I do a lot of frogging. I do a lot of ripping. I do a lot of unknitting. I do use other people's patterns. And the current project I'm working on right now is somebody else's pattern. So sometimes I definitely follow other people's patterns. But with this skirt, it was completely on the fly by the seat of my skirt, and challenge myself to a whole bunch of new skills in my own design made up in my head. This skirt literally was like, we're creating it one round at a time as we go. So it was fun to do. I'm proud of it. I'm excited by it, even though I got the bind off wrong. And yeah, we might just do it again. What do y'all think of that? Should I do it again? Should I just make myself remake it again? And should I put 8 squares on the bottom? Would that be fun? I don't know. So, yeah. Anyways, for now, I think that I'm going to go for Finish It Friday. And like I always like to say, remember, creativity is for everybody. Whether you see or you see like me, which is no color, not in the daytime, or you don't see at all. Creativity is for you. And whether it's knitting or crochet or sewing or quilting or beading or sculpting or painting or writing or whatever it is that you do, today is a great day to craft and create. So thank you so much for stopping by and spending your day with me. And if you have any questions about the skirt, okay, or some basic knitting or crocheting questions, or things about visual impairments, of course you can feel free to say that. I don't have all the answers to life though. Sorry. Okay, and as usual, I'm going to pause the video, and then I am going to turn on the overhead light so you can see what the skirt looks like. Alrighty, well, bye-bye for now, and have a great weekend. Okay, my crafty and creative people, if you don't know yet, yes, I am blinded by light. That's why I work in the dark, do my videos in the dark, but I also know people like light to see projects and colors. So here is the skirt, here's the granny square, the white, the holly berry, the ivory. Here's the shaping, we got some decreasing, straight along the edge, we got some more decreasing for the hips, and here is the waistband. Yes, that is it. We have a finished granny square knitting crocheting skirt. Finished object. All right, thanks for listening. Until next time, happy stitching. Hello, my crafty and creative people from the master bedroom. Yep, that's right. We're not in the crafting bedroom right now. We're in the master bedroom. Why? So you can see the skirt on. Because I just know that's really what you want to know, right? What does it look like on? Well, here it is. We got the ivy on top in the knit. We got the white holly berry ivy granny squares on the bottom. That's what it looks like on, because I just know that's really what people want to see, right? What does this skirt look like on? Yeah, that's it. Now, I don't know how this video is going to turn out. Am I cut off my head? And that's totally okay. because that's not what we're concerned about right now. Okay. What? You want a little secret into my life? Yeah, I'll turn you slowly so you don't get motion sick. What? We're in a shoe store? Nah, we're just in my house. That's my little secret. I like shoes. Okay, bye-bye for now.
Stop recording button.